Patriot Come Lately show. This is Stefan, your Patriot Come Lately, the voice of the Second American Revolution. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever or wherever you are listening. As someone who came to America to escape from the socialist nightmare, I am using this show to shake America awake. Join me in the next hour for constitutional conservative news and views, as well as the occasional guest. We have to rebuild that shining city on the hill by taking this great country back to the principles set forth by the founders.
And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're listening to the show. This is Stefan, your Patriot Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice, welcoming you to episode 260 of Patriot Come Lately Talk Radio. It's 260, the numbers keep mounting. I'm still having fun. The show's still coming to you from Southwest Florida, still down in the Fort Myers, Naples area. Having fun down here, but let's not talk about that. We've got a lot of things to talk about tonight. A lot of things gone on in the last week, and so let's get straight to it. Tonight I do want to start off immediately with my weekly commentary, a series of short pieces of news about which I can give my opinion. And of course, probably the first one to start off with is the Indiana Religious Freedom Restoration Act, to give it its full title. This act, which was signed into law by the Governor Mike Pence, brought down a reign of hate on Indiana, so much so that now even Governor Pence is backtracking a little bit and saying that they're going to add some law to make sure it doesn't discriminate against anybody. Well, this law was never going to discriminate against anybody. It's been blown out of proportion by the gay mafia, of course. It's amazing how people who claim they want everybody to accept them will not accept others. The problem with the gay mafia is they don't want acceptance. They want to force their own wants and morals on others. There is no room in their world for civility and acceptance of another person's view. You have to follow what they think, or you are an apostate. You are lower than low. The regressives are howling about how the RFRA of Indiana will allow people on religious grounds to refuse service and products to gays on religious grounds. Well, you know what? Maybe there are some services that should be refused. Let's start with a very obvious example. Let's say you're a Christian wedding photographer. Why should they be forced to attend a gay wedding if that's against your religion? There are, in many cases, other photographers that could do the work. But the gay mafia wants to grind any dissent into the ground and just get rid of them. Rather than looking further, they will do what they can do to humiliate those who disagree with them. It would be easy enough to go and find another photographer who doesn't have that same religious problem. But no, they've got to find that one that doesn't want to serve them and force them to serve them. You know what? I would make sure, if I were forced to do that, I would make sure that the pictures that I took would not be good. It wouldn't be bad enough for them to sue, but they would not be good. Same actually goes for retail services. But let's think about it. retail services. Should a Muslim restaurant be forced to serve pork? Am I going to go in there and say, I want a ham sandwich? Should a Jewish baker be forced to create a cake with swastikas on it? How about a Hindu restaurant being forced to serve beef? So look, another very specific example, the Christian florists who for years supplied flowers to a gay couple. No problems at all. But when that gay couple had the opportunity to get married and asked them to supply flowers for the wedding, the florist said, I'm very sorry. That goes against my religious conviction that you're getting married. We have no problem with you as a gay couple, but marriage is something that gay marriage is something we don't believe in, we don't support. And what happened to them? They were mercilessly attacked, and apparently not even by the gay couple themselves, but by the state's attorney general. Again, it's this part of the gay mafia and the left grind down anybody who stands up against them. So with this RFRA law, I'm wondering one thing. It'd be interesting to see whether Muslims actually use it for no pork, no alcohol. Think about the taxi drivers in Minnesota who refuse to carry people from the airport if they're carrying alcohol. Why? Your religion says that alcohol is bad. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't drive them. Your religion supposedly says you shouldn't have adulterers. Does that mean you're going to ask a couple that get into the car to show you them their wedding license before they get into the cab? Does that mean you're not going to carry murderers if you know they are? I mean, this is just extremism. And what I've always said, isms are always bad. And it doesn't just stop there. The regressives are as hypocritical as you can possibly think. So look at the governor of Connecticut, right, Malloy, who's signed an executive order to ban state-funded travel to Indiana. But his own state has a very similar law. How about Tim Cook of Apple? I'm so glad I'm an Android fan, and I am. My wife has Apple. I have to say she has an Apple. My daughter has an Apple iPhone. They both have iPhones. We don't have Apple computers in-house, but they have iPhones. But I'm so glad I don't, because this would be enough for me to say I want to get rid of my iPhone. Tim Cook of Apple said that his company would never tolerate discrimination. Well, that's his right to say that. But he compared Indiana's RFRA to Jim Crow. He equated a law guaranteeing the rights of individuals to take part in only the transactions they want to a law forcing individuals to take part in only those transactions the government deems worthy. Such a huge difference. But of course, Apple, and therefore Tim Cook, is quite happy to do business with and in those countries such as Saudi Arabia, Uganda, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates, who have very, very strict laws against gays, going as far as executing them. Saudi Arabia recently sentenced a gay person to, I think, 450 lashes. And if you want to know how bad that is, it has to be stretched out over a long period, because the most that they can give one person at one time is 50 lashes, and that brings them close to the point of death as is. So can you imagine what 450 lashes is going to do to someone? Other companies looking to boycott Indiana include Smallbox, Salesforce, and Angie's List. Another thing, glad I don't use Angie's List. And they want to disassociate from businesses headquartered in Indiana. Yet all of these companies work with businesses with outlets in places, again, like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Uganda. such a double standard, unbelievable. But anyway, so, you know, it's so frustrating to see how the left has this, they'll get their knickers in a twist about this thing. They'll find something that they can rise up again and make noise about. And yet you look and you look behind the scenes and you see that it's going on in 100 other places, and the left is just as much involved with those 100 other places, but they say nothing about it because it is convenient for them. And I still can't understand, and this is really the hugest hypocrisy of all, why the left is so pro-Muslims. They are so pro-Muslims when Muslims are so anti-gay, and the left is also so pro-LGBT. I just can't understand that. But they have one thing in common. They're both liars. I'm reading a book that was sent to me by a friendly author, although it's not his own book. It's a book by his father. He also sent me a copy of his book, and I'm hoping to interview him shortly. He's been on my show before. His name's Paul Skousen, and the book he sent me is The Naked Communist by W. Leon Skousen. Anybody recognize that name? And say, oh, I've heard that before. Yes, that name belongs to the person who wrote that great book, The 5,000-Year Leap. But he also wrote The Naked Communist, which was, at the time, was an expose of what the communists were trying to do to America. This is a reprint of the book, and in the front of the book it says, although the book was written probably about 50 years ago, it reads as fresh as ever, because everything that's going on, everything that this regime's doing happens in this book. But one thing that struck me about the book is that the beginning of the book, talking about how communists basically will do anything to get their way. They will lie to get their way. I'm going to have another example of that later in the show as well. And I suddenly thought, you know what? That's what makes the left and the Muslims so friendly with each other, right? The Muslims have this thing called taqiyya, which is exactly the same. It means you can lie just so long as you're doing it in the service of the cause. And that's exactly what the communists have. And both of them want to dominate people. And they have that in common. One does it in the interests of a godless society. One does it in the interests of, they say, a society led by God. But to me, it's as godless as the communists, because what they do, no God would sanction. And anyway, before I go on to the next topic, just like to say hi to my regular listeners in the chat room. Paul and Rex are there. Thank you for coming. I see Paul was also already making a comment about Dingy Harry getting bashed in by excise equipment. I have a comment about that as well, so we'll be getting to that shortly. But nice to see you both in the chat room there. Anybody else who's listening live, and I can't see those statistics until after the show, click on the little speech button in your Spreaker player box, and you can join us in the chat room. Put in your comments, questions there. Obviously, for those of you that are not listening live, please go to my website and fill in the contact form, or send me an email. The website is www.patriotcomelately.us. Or if you want to send me an email directly, it's stephan@patriotcomelately.us. Send me your questions, your comments. I love hearing from my listeners. And again, especially if you can't be in the chat room, and I know I have a lot more listeners who listen to recordings than live, unfortunately. I'd love to have more live listeners. Doing this live is a bit of a challenge, and I really enjoy doing it. So, tell your friends, ask them to come and listen live. But if you are not able to listen live, there is also a new channel that is carrying my shows, and you can listen to the recordings there. It's the405media.com, and that's another group of conservative hosts that have podcasts and live broadcasts, and I am also part of that network now, and of course also the Red State Talk Radio Network, the first one that I was associated with, and it's going great guns. It keeps exceeding its listener numbers month after month after month. I think it's probably the best conservative talk show network on the air, but 405 Media also catching up there with some very good hosts. But anyway, folks, I see it's time for a commercial break, so I'm going to take a short break, and I will be back after these messages.
You can lose 10, 20, 30 pounds or more with Maximum Slim's first ever rapid weight loss guarantee. Today, you get Maximum Slim, an advanced fat and carb blocker, absolutely risk-free. The all-natural ingredients in Maximum Slim are a powerful weight loss combination. The Maximum Slim formula turns your body into a fat-burning furnace that supercharges your weight loss. Advanced fat and carb blocker stops the breakdown of sugar so your body doesn't store it as fat. Today, you'll get both of these products absolutely risk-free with no obligation. Only pay shipping. There are no expensive meal plans or exhausting DVDs. Just take Maximum Slim twice a day. It's fast, simple, and now it's guaranteed. Look, you can start losing weight today or not. Go back to your high school days and wear your favorite jeans again. Guaranteed. Call now and get both weight loss formulas free. Call 800-451-0228. 800-451-0228. That's 800-451-0228.
Doc, you gotta give it to me straight.
All right.
'Cause I'm dying here. I mean, take a look at this letter from the IRS.
Oh, my.
This is killing me, Doc. I tell you, it's killing me.
Cheer up, my friend.
Huh?
The tax doctor is here. My diagnosis tells me that you're going to be just fine.
Really?
The tax doctor will not rest until we find you the best possible tax settlement.
Really, Doc?
Guaranteed.
If the IRS claims you owe them $10,000 or more in business or personal back taxes, call a tax doctor right now. We could save you up to 75% if you qualify. Guaranteed or you pay nothing. Call right now for free details.
800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. That's 800-917-8546.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us.
Okay, thanks for sticking with me through that break. Where I'm on my weekly commentary, and let's. I've got a new topic, so. And last week, you may remember, I made some comments about that horrific accident in the French Alps, the Germanwings crash. Of course, since then we found out that how horrendous it really was. You know, I mentioned last week it was so strange about the lack of contact with air traffic control, and now we're finding out that it was the co-pilot, and just thinking how awful those last few minutes must have been for the passengers, you know, really knowing that there was, and the, you know, the captain, you know, sort of banging on the door, trying to get in, apparently they said with an axe and things. Yeah. Now, of course, one of the things that these talking heads, these sometimes very stupid talking heads on the TV come up with, are ideas for preventing suicide by aircraft. Now, I have to say that it has been looked into. Airbus apparently was investigating putting that onto the Airbus A380, that huge super jet that they built, also basically to prevent it being flown into buildings. But they decided that it was so unreliable and there are so many other things that people could do that it wasn't really worth the bother, and it would take too much time to get it all approved by the different regulatory bodies around the world. And of course the A380 was quite late in being delivered, so they basically gave up. But let's think about it. It would have cost a lot of money to add that to each aircraft, and Airbus spent some money doing some of the development, but it would have cost a certain amount of money on each aircraft to equip them, and then to have the equipment around the world to actually communicate with the aircraft and to be able to take them over. So let's look at this from a relative point of view. What's the actual necessity? How many of these suicide by aircraft have happened over the last 20 years? I mean, I can remember I was out in Singapore. That would have been just at the end of the 90s, and there was one happened there with an aircraft company called Silkair. Since then we've had one in Japan. Apparently we had the Turkish Airlines supposedly that went down, the Egypt Air that went down into the Atlantic. Obviously we could include in that 9/11, because that was also suicide by aircraft, suicide stroke homicide, and now this one. So what are we talking about? We're talking about a handful. Let's think about the number of worldwide flights that happen every year. We're looking at roughly 93 million flights a year all around the globe. And we have one occurrence of this suicide by aircraft at the very most every 2 years, probably more like every 3 or 4 years. Is the right way to combat that to equip every single aircraft with the ability to be controlled? No, you're not going to be able to stop that. And even if you did, there are other things. You can't take full control of the aircraft. There will be ways to override it, or they can just turn off the engines, turn off the gas, even if the engines are being controlled by somebody on the ground. Or why don't we just get rid of the pilots totally and just do everything? I mean, we fly drones all the time. Why don't we just do that? But can we trust someone sitting in a control booth? Would they, if they're a terrorist, would they just fly the plane into the ground so they can kill the people and they don't get killed themselves? I mean, it's so difficult to control all of this. So why should we force the airlines to spend millions and probably billions of dollars to equip all their aircraft with this kind of equipment, for such a low rate of occurrence? I mean, even in the US, we have over 9 million flights a year, and how many of these accidents have we had here? If you don't count the ones on the foreign airlines that were leaving America, zilch. Now, there are a lot of small planes that people use to commit suicide as well. So we're going to equip them with equipment, and who's going to control them? When are we going to know that they've done it? I mean, so we're going to have thousands of people sitting there watching radars, and then if something strays a little bit from what was expected, immediately take over control and land them. It's just impractical. So it's really stupid of people to do that. And as Rex says in the chat room, suppose a hacker gets hold of it and starts playing around with it. So, just totally impractical. But these people on TV come up with the strangest ideas. So my next topic, and I alluded to that in the chat room. Paul had made mention of Dingy Harry. And of course, Dingy Harry is retiring. And I wrote here, retirement of the sleaziest, most corrupt, lowlife, bottom-feeding, SOB politician, Dingy Harry. And for those of you that don't recognize the name, it was introduced by Rush Limbaugh. Of course, we mean Harry Reid. I would like to use other words, because I like him so much. But I do flag this show as family safe when I put it out there, so I can't use the words I'd really like to use. He's retiring. Thank goodness. Now, why might he be retiring? Probably because he's going to be investigated for high crimes. He's been linked to some shenanigans about getting someone who wasn't eligible a visa and putting pressure on the government department. Of course, the government department said, oh, this would never happen here, but it's very obvious that it did. So, looks like he's retiring so that he won't be indicted. Well, why wouldn't he be indicted? Even when you retire, doesn't mean things go away. Hit him all the harder. But he's a coward. He's a lily-livered, useless piece of horse manure, and a gangster. Yes, he's a gangster. He entered Congress a poor lawyer, and on a salary of about $130,000, ended up with a fortune of $26 million. And you think he did all of that on his salary? No. And as Rex said, yeah, he's well known in Nevada, in Las Vegas, where he comes from and where Rex lives, that he's corrupt, where he gets his corrupt things from. Yeah, just totally corrupt. So this fortune of 26 million, just pure corruption. That did not come from his Senate salary. He is a thug who totally destroyed the character of the Senate through his machinations because he was protecting Lord Obama and preventing bills from going through that Lord Obama would have to veto. Well, those are coming through now, and the Caliph has started on that. But another topic for later. But even when I thought he was bad and corrupt and low life, now he has reached the absolute bottom of the barrel. On CNN, Communist News Network, in a recent interview, he was asked about his cowardly attack on the then GOP candidate Romney, and asked did he have any regrets, and he said no, he wasn't elected, was he? So for those of you that don't remember, during the Romney campaign, our dear lying friend got up on the floor of the Senate and claimed that Romney had not paid taxes in 10 years. He refused to say where he'd got his information from, dreamed it up actually, and because he uttered it on the floor of the Senate, he is shielded from libel laws. So, to me, that's the most cowardly, disgusting, despicable thing about the whole situation. And of course, the LSM took it and ran with his falsehood, pretty much ignoring the proof that Romney produced shortly after that to show that he had paid taxes, but the damage had been done. So lying to achieve your objectives is acceptable if you're in politics. Well, I'm sorry. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever. I think anyone who lies ought to automatically be disqualified. And we ought to just impeach them automatically. Boom. So now Reid is going to escape corruption charges, he hopes, by retiring. Well, I hope he doesn't escape those charges. And quite frankly, I wish him the worst of retirements. I hope that ways are found to make him remember and rue all these despicable acts that he did for the rest of his life. There are rumours that his recent injuries were not the results of a gym apparatus accident, but due to a visit from some thugs that are as bad as he is. And Rex alluded to that in the chat room as well. I'm not sure that it is true, but I wish it were. It is no better than he deserves, and all I can say is, why didn't they do a better job? And maybe they will come back for him now that he has retired. Okay, folks, we're getting to the bottom of the hour. Oh, time is flying tonight. I'm really having fun with all these topics. Got so much to talk about, but we'll see. Got a nice one next. Ted Cruz coming up, and of course the left howling again when he announced his candidacy for the GOP nomination. So, folks, stick with me for a moment. I will be back right after these messages.
Patriot come lately. British by birth. American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
Every day, millions of Americans grow more concerned about the future of our great nation. The truth is, over the last century, a small but powerful collectivist movement known as progressivism has debased our politics, our culture, and our currency. We're just a small step from falling into 1,000 years of darkness, as Ronald Reagan warned. Friend, this is Pat Boone with an important free offer on a hot new book called The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Lowell Ponte. This new book explains how we, the people, can end this fatal detour into big government and get back on the path of faith and freedom charted by our founders. Call now for a free copy of the hot new book called The Great Withdrawal.
Call now for your free copy. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. That's 800-978-3901.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS that you can't pay? Call now for immediate help. At the Tax Relief Line, we help people just like you. If you take on the IRS alone, you could be facing levies, liens, even wage garnishments, personal or business tax issues. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS, call now and see if you can pay less. They can freeze your bank accounts, even garnish your wages. Call the Tax Relief Line now for immediate help. Our expert team of tax professionals will negotiate your tax problem and deal with the IRS for you. If the IRS is threatening you with levies, wage garnishments, or seizing your assets, call now and see if you can pay the IRS less.
888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043.
This is Patriot Come Lately Talk Radio, keeping the spirit of America alive, a proud member of the Red State Talk Radio Network.
Okay, folks, this is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately. We're halfway through the show, having fun here with episode 260, and you should join us in the chat room. It might be a little NSFW, not suitable for work, not suitable for families, but we can say things there that don't destroy the family rating of the show when it goes out for its recordings. Before I go on to my next topic, and I'm still on my weekly commentary, and we may take up not quite the whole show, but a lot of the show, I do want to play a little bit of music. I've got into this thing of giving a little bit of entertainment, and I'm going to go back to one of my regulars, my favorite, one of the Tea Party anthems again, and this is Krista Branch. I've played her fairly recently, but I can't really get enough of this, and this is really something that I think gives us hope for the future, and we're going to talk about Ted Cruz next, so I think this is a good one to lead that in.
Make a joke of what we believe. Say picture me? Is there no end to your own hypocrisy? Your God is power, you have no shame. Your only interest is political gain. You hide your eyes and refuse to listen. You play your games and abuse the system. You stuff your pockets while Rome is burning. I've got a feeling that the tide is turning.
And that was Krista Branch. Just a reminder to my listeners, if you like this music, go to her site, kristabranch.com, or go to iTunes, download the song, help support these artists with the Tea Party anthems that I play in the show, because they deserve it, but this is especially one that deserves support. Okay, next topic, folks. And I promised you I was going to be talking about Ted Cruz. Got a couple of things here about Ted Cruz. But the main thing is, of course, talked earlier about the regressives howling about the Indiana law, and they also started howling when Ted Cruz announced he was throwing his hat in the ring for the GOP nomination, the regressives and the lamestream media. Let's start off. One of the, I think, most hypocritical statements was CNN describing him as the uncompromising conservative. Well, to be honest, as far as I'm concerned, that's a mark of honor. But obviously they were trying to use it as a negative attribute. Hypocritical as ever, because let's look at the reality. How about the uncompromising Dingy Harry, who we talked about in the first half of the show? The uncompromising King Barry, right, who says, well, you can do things any way you like, just so long as you do it my way. And especially the uncompromising use of government force to attack their enemies, right? The Caliph using the FDIC with Operation Choke Point to attack gun dealers and other legal businesses that they don't like. The EPA putting in draconian laws to force power stations to reduce their emissions and reduce their outpouring of CO2, which is, unfortunately, the Supreme Court made a mistake when they said that this was a gas that could be regulated. The IRS attacking True the Vote and other conservative Tea Party groups, etc. So what about that uncompromising? But as I said, I see that as a badge of honor for Ted Cruz, and I think it's good that he is uncompromising. I like that part about him. He has a backbone. He stands up for things. I do have some questions, though, about his eligibility. He was born in Canada. We could, we had the discussions about dear Barry. Of course, the left will latch onto that, and they'll be very ready to start all sorts of lawsuits. He's also only a senator, and he was Attorney General in Texas. Doesn't really have executive knowledge and experience. So I'm not sure. I don't know whether we want another senator without executive experience in the White House so soon afterwards. Same goes for Hillary, of course. We don't want her in there. So right now, I think with other names that are being thrown around, Scott Walker is probably the best one. He has the executive experience. Jeb Bush, but I don't like the Bushes. I don't want a Bush in there. So Scott Walker's probably the best bet that we have right now. But okay, it's still early days. And for the moment, let's go back to Ted Cruz. And there was the lamestream media, there was a op-ed by a Miami-based so-called journalist who covers immigration issues, called Alan Gomez. Well, you can guess with a Hispanic name like that what direction things are going to go in. But of course, remember, Cruz is himself Hispanic. So they were talking about how Ted Cruz spoke in lofty terms about the virtues of immigrants. But the headline says, for Cruz, not all immigrants are equal. And they tried to make this so negative, and I read this thing and said, boy, that's exactly what I want. He said, Cruz hasn't always spoken so sympathetically about immigrants, from barring undocumented immigrants from ever becoming U.S. citizens to remaking our immigration system into one that welcomes mostly university-trained foreigners. Cruz has made it clear that he only celebrates a certain kind of immigrant. Well, Mr. Gomez, they are the right kind of immigrant, because we bring in good people to help build the country up. We don't bring in dregs and moochers and leeches that are going to suck all of our resources out of the country for their own benefit, right? They're coming in just for entitlements. So wake up, America, because that's what they want. Ted Cruz also, in his speech, Gomez is talking about this, asked Americans to imagine a president that finally secures the border. Yes, I would go, if Ted Cruz was doing that, like I said, I have some questions about his eligibility and his experience, but if I knew he was going to do that, I would vote for him in a heartbeat. Close the border. That is just so important. And Gomez goes on about Cruz proposing an amendment that would represent a complete overhaul of our immigration system, from one focused on family ties to one that catered to business interests. Right now, 66% of green cards issued each year are based on one's family relationships. So you get one person in and they suck in a whole pile of other moochers, leeches, entitlement-bound people. Because a lot of the time they're going to bring in their parents, their elderly parents, who are not going to be working, who are going to come here and get our entitlements, which we don't have enough for our own people, let alone all these people we're bringing in. So Cruz wants to reduce that number from 66% to 25%. Fantastic. I love it. And of course Gomez is writing this as if it's something bad. It's the best thing since sliced bread. He also mentions that Cruz doesn't really talk about the 11 million undocumented immigrants, as Alan Gomez calls them, but let's be honest, the illegal immigrants. He says Cruz was silent on that in his speech, but he was perfectly clear about their future in a committee room, which earlier on, a couple of weeks ago, talking about the immigration bill, 2 years ago it was. In a simple 2-paragraph amendment, Cruz suggested that they be allowed to become legal permanent residents but forever be barred from U.S. citizenship. Yes, that's exactly what I've been saying. So Ted Cruz, in that respect, I love you. Like I said, you have some negatives, but that I really, really love it. Anyway, folks, I see it's time for our next commercial break. We're getting to the last part of the show, so stick with me, and I'll be right back.
Reporting from the eye of the storm. This is the worst weather we've seen in quite some time, folks. And I don't see any end in sight. People have been calling in from across the state complaining their basements are flooding. One guy said he now has an indoor swimming pool in his basement. I told him he needs the waterproofing innovations from Basement Systems. If you want a dry basement or crawl space that will weather any kind of storm, you need the patented solutions from Basement Systems. You've seen them on home makeover shows throughout the country. With a lifetime warranty, every solution is custom designed for your basement. Call now for a free estimate, and you'll never have to worry about storms like these again. I'm predicting this storm front is heading your way, so call Basement Systems and relax.
Call 800-205-8665 for your free in-home inspection, or visit basementradiooffer.com. That's 800-205-8665, or visit basementradiooffer.com.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call. But I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a 4-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-750-5371. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-750-5371. That's 877-750-5371.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And this is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately. We're into the final section of the show. It's been fun tonight. Got another couple of topics I want to try and squeeze in, but I also want to say thanks to Paul for some nice things that he's saying in the chat room. And as I've said before, if you're listening live, join us in the chat room. And if you're not listening live, you're listening to the recordings, and many different channels now that you can listen to them. Do send me an email, stefan@patrickcomelately.us, or go to my website www.patrickcomelately.us and use the contact button to send me a message. Either way, I love hearing questions or comments about the show. Feedback is always useful. If you think I did a good job, a bad job, let me know. And of course, above all, please tell your friends. We need to get the need to get the people listening to these messages. That's what I'm trying to do: educate people and get them seeing what they need to see. Because, and this is again related to something Paul just put in the chat room, there are no Woodwards and Bernsteins today. With all these things that Harry Reid and Hitlery have been doing, there's just so much corruption going on, and part of the problem is the politicians have the journalists in their hip pocket, and that's why we don't get them, Woodwards and Bernstein. So it has to be people like myself trying to expose what's going on. So some more exposure. And this is a little bit of schadenfreude. This is enjoyment at something going wrong for the Obama regime, specifically Khalif Hussein himself, because he's really going to get embarrassed about the revelations around Bo Bergdahl. He has finally been charged with desertion and acting funny in front of the enemy, or whatever they called it, just short of being a full traitor. But you all know the story. Susan Rice lied. Obama goofed up with his Rose Garden thing with the parents, but he also lied. Hillary lied. She whispered in the ears of one of the people of the Benghazi thing. She lied about that. Biden lied. They are lying, and they all think that the American people are dumb and would not notice. Well, we've noticed the exchange of 5 dangerous thugs for 1 traitorous deserter. It's just going to mean more loss of trust in the White House. People don't like Congress, but they're getting to like the White House even less as well. Is there actually, I ask the question, is there actually anybody who actually trusts Obama? I don't think there is. And even his sycophants who will say anything, but believe me, I really think that in their hearts they don't trust him either, but they've pledged their uncompromising loyalty to him, and so they will support him whatever. So if someone asks them, do you trust him? They say yes, but do they really? I don't think they do either. It's obvious. And let's see, well, we're getting very close to the end. I'm going to I have to start wrapping up here because the music is going to be coming very shortly. So once again, I do want to remind you, please tell your friends, spread the word. I hope in 2 or 3 shows from now to have Paul Skousen on as a guest. Got to get that set up, and we'll do that shortly, hopefully. And so we'll be interesting to have a guest back. I haven't done that for a long while. Spreaker doesn't make it too easy. I don't think I'll be able to do that live. I think I'll have to record him offline and then bring in the recordings onto the show, but I'm going to ask and see if he can maybe join us in the chat room while I play the interview, and that way we can have interaction. So then, you know, I would say you really need to be live for that show, but I'll give you a heads up when that's coming. And of course, remind everybody, if you're looking for any of the services that advertise on the show, please use the 800 numbers, because the 800 numbers result in funds that support the show. I don't get paid for running the ads. I only get paid when people call those numbers. And as we slowly go towards the end of the show, and of course I can't finish it early because of things like Red State Talk Radio, where I have a very fixed time slot that I have to fill for Primo, and I want to thank Primo for all the work that he does do in providing all the this great vehicle for all the talk show hosts that broadcast on this show, and I wish him all luck for developing it further, because he's every month the numbers are increasing. It's amazing how many people are listening. So thanks to Primo, and also thanks to John Grant of the 405 Media for letting me play my show there as well. It's great to be able to do that. And folks, I see the music has started. It's time to go. I'll say TTFN. Please join me again next week.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the Patriot Come Lately Show. Please take what you have learned and share it with friends and family. Better still, tell them about the show so they can listen too. Remember to support the advertisers on the show. It helps keep this show on the air, and I thank you for that. I'm looking forward to joining you on the next show. Until then, keep spreading our message. Goodbye, and God bless America.